Yeah.
he identifies that with the heart. Like the heart is the image function. It's this.
Yep.
I forget what he called it. Like it's basically like a synesthetic organ that.
It's the only one that floats independent of the body.
Yeah. Like
It's not attached to the body.
Like
Okay,
yeah.
but here's what Ian tells us. He likes to say the heart of the matter is the matter of the heart, or matter of the heart is the heart of the matter. He likes to say that. But he says all that we attribute to the heart is in the hypothalamus. And look where that is in the brain. All the qualities we think are so important for humans that the heart molds or contains are in the hypothalamus. So there's a relationship between the heart and the hypothalamus and the pineal gland, which is really important, that Ian spells out that I bet you no one else ever said, unless some obscure fucking Buddhist that wrote it once 10,000 years ago. But this is where we learn from Ian. He brings us back. So don't just focus on the heart. Focus on the hypothalamus. And then there's the thalamus.
Yeah, like the whole meridian system, like including the big 7 chakras and everything else.
Yep. Ian talks about all that in a new way.
And so does Finnegan's Wake directly, right? Like
Well, Ian says that Joyce didn't know what he was doing. He was really in struggle, and that was what he said to me when he came through Ian on March 22nd, 2009. He talked about the agony, and he went to mediums to get solace or validation. He wanted to talk to somebody who'd give him guidance because he had gone so much out on the limb. So it was really a struggle, and in the end, he never totally got it, says Ion. He didn't ascend, but that was before he told me about the aliens. So now the aliens are talking to Ion. So that's another problem Joyce had, how to figure out what the aliens were. So he probably had a lot of pressure on him, and he wasn't that healthy. He didn't make it. He couldn't hold it all together, so he died.
Well, that dream I had with Joyce, that's what I asked him about directly, is about the Kundalini stuff, basically, right? Which and then Joyce said, yeah, that's where to look, like that's where to look to figure out Finnegan's Wake.
Wow. No, that's good, because who talks about, who starts to get in that angle is William Irwin Thompson.
Right,
if you've never read him, he's important because
I haven't read him. I've seen I've looked at videos and stuff where he's in, but or people reading it.
He's a good talker, really good talker. He talks fast, but he does since he was a meditator and a yoga guy since he was 15. That's his bias. He'll emphasize the Kundalini chakras and all that, and that's ascension from his point of view. Ian says that yoga was invented like 3,000 years ago, and it didn't work. And the guys who did it gave it up, but culture kept it going. So it's not that important compared to what Ian says. Anyways, the difference with Ian is that you need this substance. So that's the alchemy. You need the eye cell to deal with this change that all prophets saw coming to the planet, the flipping of the poles. And it's happened before. So Thompson, though, does point out the role of angels and the chakras and all that in Joyce. He puts that in there because he has to, because he wants to make Finnegan's Wake be about what he's interested in.
Thompson talks about that in Joyce?
Yeah. In his books, he writes about Finnegan. He has a whole amazing chart. And he has Finnegan's Wake as a very important position in the chart, and then he tells what it means. It's very important.
Which book should I look at for that?
The Imaginary Landscape, which is about 1989. But before that, in 85, 86, the Pacific Shift. So I'd say the Pacific Shift, the Imaginary Landscape, and then the American Replacement of Nature in 92, 93, and then Coming into Being. So those 4. Are you writing them down?
No, I'm trying to find them.
It's on the tape. And then the 5th one is his classroom. He got hired by the widow of the head of AOL, Warner Brothers, Steve Ross or somebody. He died, so she had all this money. So she's out in Long Island. So she made a school for her daughter because there was no real good school. And she got Thompson to describe the curriculum. So there's a book called Transforming History or something. Yeah. That's his classwork through the 12 grades of his stuff applied to each level of child, and it goes through the 5 phases. So it's really important, and I recognize his contribution. I knew him. I went to his seminars at the Cathedral St. John Divine in 93, 94, 95, 96, 97, and he wasn't up on McLuhan. He knew McLuhan's stuff, and I showed him Wired magazine in 93, in the spring of 93. It just started. He says, well, I know all these people, Stuart Brand. We competed for the National Book Award back in 71 for his book, Edge of History. And so, yeah, I knew he knew about these guys. And he said, but I didn't know they were doing this. And I said, look, they got McLuhan on the masthead. And he was always ambiguous about McLuhan. So that got him looking into that stuff again. So then he went out and spoke taught at the California School of Design Arts, whatever the one is that in San Francisco that McKenna taught at. You remember that? The Center for Design Arts or Mystical Arts or something?
Where? In
San Francisco. He taught there.
No, I don't know. I'm not sure, yeah.
Center for something. Well, they invited Thompson out there. So he goes out there, and in Coming Into Being, which comes out in 96, he writes about his experience there in 94 and 95. All the kids were into McKenna and drugs. Now, Thompson's not a drug guy. He's talked to McKenna, and he told him, hey, you're going to end up like Leary. You got to lay off on this drug emphasis because Thompson is a fundamentalist. He believes in yoga, which McKenna doesn't say is the be-all and end-all, right? So there's this debate between Thompson and McKenna. So he goes out there, and he finds the kids are post-literate. They can't fucking read. They're not interested in ideas and books. They're only interested in McKenna and drugs. So he got fed up with the school after a year or so, and he came back to our group at the Cathedral, which had a lot of older, literate baby boomers, and he writes in the foreword that it was so great to come back to this group. And he's reading this forward to us when the book comes out. We hadn't seen it yet. And he says, I have a new appreciation of McLuhan. We need to understand what McLuhan was warning us about. Because I experienced it out in... and he's looking for how to preserve books, right? He's looking for the eyes, how to make them seen again. They don't want to give up the book completely. So he's on the right track by wanting to do that. And so because I would bring up McLuhan in 93, 94, eventually he asked me to explain the tetrad. So we always had a dinner after the class around 1 or 2 o'clock. We go to this symposium thing up there on 122nd Street on the west side. And so some of the followers of him there came to me and said, will you go on about McLuhan? What is it about McLuhan? I went to university. I studied philosophy. We studied Heidegger. I said, oh yeah, Heidegger's okay, but McLuhan goes further. So I would tell them about Heidegger, and they didn't believe me. They said, that's fucking nuts. But then McLuhan started to be in the media a lot in the 90s, so they had to deal with that. They had no knowledge of McLuhan. So Bill would always get me to talk about McLuhan. He felt inadequate to it, so I would say it. So when he read this thing in 96, he talks about appreciation of McLuhan. So about 4 of my closer friends, allies in the group, looked at me and nodded. Oh, that's Bob. He's acknowledging Bob's bringing McLuhan back into the group of the world of New Age and that Thompson is a figure in, major figure. So that's what he's referring to. He came back to the Cathedral because we read books and we knew about McLuhan. The McKenna people didn't. And you know, for me personally,
well, McKenna talks about McLuhan, but yeah, you're right. Like nobody
well,
else.
Here's what happened.
None of his followers are into it.
Right. So he read the letters in the late 80s, and he wrote a review. He was astounded. Holy shit, McLuhan's writing about LSD and how it's a product of the television era and all that stuff. He hadn't heard that perspective of his drug world. So then Neil Goldstein, I think his name is, was a friend of McKenna's, and I met him in 98, 99. So he told McKenna, you got to talk to Bob. So we started to email in the end of, what would that be? End of 98. And I raised some points that McLuhan say criticizing what he was saying, what he was missing. And he says, wow, this is very interesting. But I just got back to Hawaii. He lived on the Big Island.
Big Island,
and
yeah,
I've got
I almost went to see him. I met him in San Diego, and he invited us there, but we couldn't get a ticket over.
What year was that?
90.
97, 96?
No, earlier, 95, 94, 95, I think. 94 probably it was, yeah.
When you say we, who's we?
Me and my girlfriend at that time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, Big Island, he's over there, and he says, I've been on tour, I got to process deal, I got all this stuff. I'm very busy, but we need to talk. So that was late 98. Well, a couple months later, he got sick. And he was out of it for a year, and then he died like April 3rd, 2000. He died a year later.
Yeah.
So he never got to talk to me. So he didn't find out whatever I could have told him that he probably would have found interesting, because I would have talked his stuff and related to McLuhan more than he knew how to do, because he didn't know that much McLuhan. So he missed the connection to Bob and died.
That's too bad. You both were on the island. They both were in Hawaii at the same time.
Yeah, so we showed up here and in 2008, and I always remember him writing about the green flash. So when there's a sunset, every now and then there's a...
So you weren't in Hawaii until 2008?
Right. No, I wasn't. I was in New York in 98.
All right, okay.
I spent 15 years in Nova Scotia, and then from 77 to 93, 15 years in Toronto, then 15 years in New York, and now I'm just begun this week my 15th year in Hawaii. So 4 15s, and that means we got to get out of here if we follow the pattern. But where we're going to go is the secret hideout that Ian has made for us. When all the shit hits the fan, we've got a bunker to go to, an incredible bunker, and we're going to be riding it out there.
In New Zealand, you're talking about?
No, that's just where I'm going to meet the aliens. That has nothing to do... Yeah. I don't know why it's in New Zealand. I've been there once with Andrew Crystal. It's a very green place, a nice place, but I don't know what the alien contact will lead to. But meanwhile, Ian is preparing a place for us to be bunkered when the nuclear war and all the shit that's going to happen over the next couple of years goes down. So... why am I saying that? Why did I get into the bunker? So I figure I'll be gone within a year to the bunker, and I'll have done 15 years like the previous 3 quadrants, 60 years of phases. In Nova Scotia, I was stationed there in the Secret Council of 10. That was my intelligence work from Europe. And then I went to Toronto to hang out with McLuhan. Then I went to New York to see the fall of the Android meme. The 15 years I was in New York was the end of New York and the end of the Android meme and the end of, 9/11 happening, and New York never recovered from that. And then our life led us to Hawaii, which turned out to be the paradise. So what Ian says, this is the latest pattern. We went from revelation, all the stuff we studied for 40 years, from say 69 to 2009. Then Ian showed up to complete it, and we were put into Genesis, the Garden of Eden, at the end of the cycle. So we went from revelation, 40 years of journeying around and learning, your tinker gypsies, and then we end up stationed by accident in Maui on the way to Costa Rica, but that didn't turn out because of the financial collapse in September 2008. So we were stranded here. It turned out we were in the 5th gate, and then Ian was describing recently how the Garden of Eden bubble was the first stage of the fall of man. We fell at Andromeda, and Adam and Eve were put in a bubble, and then the bubble was there for a while, and they were doing okay, but then they ate from the tree of knowledge of good and evil and fucked up, so they got kicked out of the bubble and went into the polluted world. The world that we're moving into, this new changed world with less oxygen, it was like that when the bubble of Garden of Eden came down, and so what we were from Andromeda couldn't survive out there, so we stayed inside the Garden of Eden, and that was pretty nice. And Ian says we talk to, quote, God every day in the Garden of Eden. And he would say, just like our shows, we talk and all kinds of discussion. And the serpent was lurking around. Sometimes Ian says I was the serpent, but it's nebulous. So anyways, I'm not sure if we were Adam and Eve, but Einstein said anybody could have been the Adam and Eve. You just were a representative of the fallen condition from Andromeda. So we're enjoying the Garden of Eden, but then something made us screw up. Probably because Ophanel told the Andromedans to fall. So the first step was to get in the Garden of Eden bubble. But then, see, this is the logic of it. We got to fall some more and get kicked out of the Garden of Eden and really get in trouble. So Ophanel caused that as the serpent. So Adam and Eve were kicked out, and now here was this dangerous environment, but they could survive in it, but it was a real struggle. And the oxygen came back to help them a bit. But the goal is to get back to where it was with less oxygen so the aliens can come and get us out of this fallen bubble. Well, for me and Carolyn, this fifth gate we're in, and go to Andromeda. So that's the fantastic fucking novel I just laid out for you. It's a great movie.
Yeah, well, like I said before, you got to watch Under the Silver Lake. This film, it just came out in 2018, but it's all the one I told you about the bunkers.
Right. So what?
It's kind of a shitty movie, but it's interesting to think about this one, especially from your point of view. Right.
So what movies do you recommend? Under the Silver Lake. You got any others?
I've been watching movies from the 1920s and 1930s pretty well constantly these days. So I don't know much. I don't know many recent movies at all. Yeah.
Okay, so Under the Silver Lake, and that came out a couple of years ago.
2018, but yeah, that's the one. Like I said, it's not a great movie or anything, but just the
theme of the bunker.
I think you'll love it for that. You might even find something in it. There might even be some messages in there, which I sort of saw as well.
So by 2010, I realized how creative we could be with Ion, and he suggested some movie scenarios. And I said, well, maybe we'll get to the point where we can make some movies. He says, oh, you will. Now, here it is 12 years later. We never made any movies. But starting with Fringe, and every fucking year, especially J.J. Abrams made them, all these movies, Ian would talk about them every year, and they always were based on people listening to our show. Script writers or people with ideas in Hollywood would listen, get these crazy scenarios, and present them. And they'd make a movie which would fit the latest Ionic themes. And there's been a lot of them, and I would point out every movie that came along that was doing visualizing what I was talking about. So then I realized after 10 years, this is how we're making movies. We talk it, let someone else make it. And
yeah.
It's process of making a fucking movie.
It's pretty obvious that these scriptwriters are just like they're starved for good ideas, right? So they're just scouring blogs and forums. Podcasts and whatever, and then you can see these ideas coming through. Like I sort of wonder myself about like things that I've written that have come out, but I think they've done that, and I've talked to other people who say the same thing. It's like wait a minute, that seems very familiar.
They'd see if a lot of people are coming up with the idea. They say, okay, there's a meme, we can make a movie on that. It's got a market.
There's something that everybody's tapped into or something, yeah.
But what Ian does, they do it before everybody. They lay out the ideas, and then they point out the movie before anybody sees the movie. They say, this is what you're going to watch next. And this is the way we create our new civilization, which is what I always said we were going to do at Iondom, through talking, the easiest method. And let other people do the grind work of making the shit, which comes and goes, and then it's obsolete, and you make another one. So I realized 10 years later, that's how we're doing it. Which I didn't tell me 10 years ago that, well, you're not going to make any movies, Bob. You're just going to inspire them. So so people have told me, and people will start to listen to the show and realize, after listening to you guys, and then I work at this office, and I talk to people, let's say 2013, they'd say, people are talking ideas, stuff that Ian says, that I know they never knew 5 years ago. They never would think this way. And they documented through anecdotally the population changing. And now it's just regular to talk about parallel worlds, alternative timelines. It's in the culture all over the place. You know what I mean? Way more than 10, 15 years ago. Nobody talked that way. So that's what we did. And that's where ion is the extension of non-physical, and it's the hidden ground of what's happening. Now, you're studying the correct stuff, so you tuned into it. You're picking up on the ion consciously, so to speak. You know what I mean? By writing what you're writing.
Yeah, my take is that it's everywhere, right? So like even Andromeda, you talk about Andromeda, right? And so I immediately think about the myth Andromeda, right? And she was a princess like tied to a rock, and she was going to be the sacrifice to this sea monster, basically the sea dragon. And then Perseus comes flying in with his winged sandals and ends up slaying the monster. And then so I was just listening to Fry again the other day in his lectures, and he says that also is one of the myths of one of the creation myths of the hero slaying the dragon, the original sea dragon, right? And so you find that in the Babylonian, like this is one of the earliest written myths, anyways. Like in the Enuma Elish, the Babylonian creation myth, and it's Marduk, who's sort of the god of Babylon, and he slays his mother, who's a sea dragon called Tiamat, and she's divided. Her body is divided into two, and it becomes the heaven and the earth, right? And so Fry is connecting that to the Bible, like you're saying, like you just said that before. There is no more sea, right? And so the reason there's no more sea is that the sea dragon has been killed, and in the Bible it says, and then it's used as meat or as food for the people after that. And so in the Bible, like Moses and the Israelites were fed by manna, which was falling from the earth, right? And so that's maybe... That
was the eye cell. Manna was the eye cell.
That's the body of the sea monster, right? And so when you talk about Andromeda and then you're linking it up with Revelation and there being no more sea, then that's the closure of the myth, right? Again, you know, that's another way to say it.
Right. So the Andromeda was a woman attached to a rock.
She was a princess. Yeah.
And the dragon came along and bugged her for a while, and Perseus saved her.
Yeah, it was Cassiopeia who was Andromeda's mother, and she boasted that Cassiopeia, was more beautiful than Poseidon's daughters, the Nereids. Mm-hmm. And so then that goes back to Poseidon, and Poseidon unleashes this sea dragon on them, right? Mm-hmm. And then to prevent the sea dragon from just destroying their whole kingdom, Andromeda, their daughter, the princess, is offered chained to a rock, and then offered as a sacrifice to the sea dragon, and then Perseus comes and saves her.
Intervenes, and Perseus was a big guy in McLuhan's world. Remember, he held up the mirror to reflect the Gorgon
to Medusa. Yeah, that's right. So that's the other part of the Perseus myth. The part before that, right? Like once you get into myth, right? Once you get into the myth, and then combining the myth with all of this with all the mythology that you're creating, then it gets even deeper and richer and crazier. You know,
Okay, you take these abstract themes that the myths represent, but the myths are alive and you can talk. I think Ion is the sea dragon.
Yeah.
That
makes sense. That makes sense because the sea dragon is the original mother, right? Who's basically chaos, who's basically all of spirit. That's ALP. Like that's the cosmic form of ALP. You know, and so
the Earth matrix.
So that's Joyce's thing, right? Like he considers the fall, like the fall of man, to be not the fall of man; it's the fall of God. And the fall happens because of the creation. And the reason why it's a fall is because, like in this myth I'm talking to you about, it's like he kills the original goddess of chaos and forms the world with her body, and then comes out and says he's the creator. which he's not. He's using the body like it's her that's the creator, and he didn't even really kill her. She's still there. She's still there. She's just divided now into, or divided from our perspective into heaven and earth, right? But from the perspective of eternity, she's still there.
So the sea dragon.
That's why ALP is laughing at HCE all the way through.
Yeah. So she's laughing at literate HCE.
Yeah.
It's a little more equal in the tribal societies.
That's
the
right.
oral,
Yeah,
tactile.
that's right. So then you have the sacred marriage, right?
Right. Okay. So let me say this. So I'll say Andromeda is the ascension process and how it happened, and there's a latency, a potency. Right. So Carolyn is, she's more public than me. She has a responsible position. She's a doctor, right? So she has to deal with all the levels. I'm just a jerkball. I'm HCE fucking around, making up shit. And so she gets trapped by the patriarchy or whatever you want to say, and she's tied to the rock. So then the sea dragon comes, I don't know, to help her. I'm saying the sea is the guff, and it's a dragon, and it's the pterodactyl. It could be bad, but it's a sea dragon. It's Ion coming, and Ion will be done away with at some point. And that's Perseus. Perseus intervenes. That's Ophanel. That's me, and I'm picking up on the rearview mirror metaphor of the mirror. Right. That's always been an image. Matter of fact, one of my mystical images, mystical visions I had in 1970 is I was transported someplace and I saw the sun, but it could have been the moon, reflecting off a mirror. And it was a really stark reflection. And so I thought, oh, there's the mirror. And this mirror. And then I would try to figure out what McLuhan meant by mirror, because art is rearview mirror. But often people say, oh, you're numb if you're in the rearview mirror. But you got to take the past and make it new. It's still a rearview mirror, but it's rejuvenated, and that's art. That's different from the numb rearview mirror. So those complications I've always thought about. So the mirror is a key thing that I'll claim as Ophanel. And so I'm the intermediary between the sea dragon and Carolyn.
Yeah, you could be Perseus, right? But it's like
that's what I'm saying.
That's the other thing. Like Andromeda and the Sea Dragon are basically the same. That's they're like that's what Robert Graves would say. It's like they're different phases of the same goddess. And the same in Finnegan's Wake. It's like ALP and the daughter Isabel are the same.
Izzy, yeah.
Izzy, yeah.
Okay, look at it this way. The woman is very important. So it's a tough problem for a stupid man. And so man needs a solution. So they create the guff, a non-physical, which is Ion, which is actually a service and a disservice if you get too stuck in it. So the book got people stuck in a bad relationship with the guff and the sea, which was there to help you. So then the electric age, which is right hemisphere and feminine, comes back, and then that awakens the sea dragon to come forth and no longer be the sea dragon, but in the transition help the woman. And the man, so when I made the tiny note chart, I saw that women were taking over, or the feminine, as Baudrillard would talk about, something, the mystery landscape.
Seduction.
Seduction, exactly.
Yeah.
So I said, okay, I'm the last guy living with Carolyn, and she was curing AIDS and doing all this incredible stuff. So I said, I'm the guy that has to appreciate this and not resist it. So I said to Carolyn, here are some men who make finish the short list. I think you women should notice McLuhan, Zappa, Thompson, Croker, and LaRouche. You shouldn't throw men all away. You need to know what they have that you need, to understand how you got into this situation where you didn't understand visual space. And I said, I represent those guys. So I made this chart saying, here's what Bob preserved as a Noah's Ark for the new level, which was the 6th level, which wasn't on the chart, but I said, waiting for organic bodies, the hexad, the waiting for organic bodies, the spinning clothing crystals have danced the hexadvertisement. And the hexad came after the tetrad and the pentad. So the 6th level was what Carol was doing with this new science. That's why I kind of clued into a new weird kind of science that you could make with this mirror technology that regular science wouldn't recognize and wouldn't be able to develop. So that's the hexadic level I thought she represented. So my chart predicted the hexadic, which turned out to be Ion, who pointed out to us that the hexadic is ion in the world causing this turmoil. So it's the last, gasp of the dragon or the pterodactyl floating over the earth. So that's how we got to where we are today. The Andromeda myth, as you lay it out, and what Ion is the dragon and Bob is the Perseus. Now, this is all within language. This is not me, the person, or whatever you call my private citadel of consciousness. Remember McLuhan said, media does not affect the citadel of consciousness.
Sure. Yeah.
That's your eternal essence or something.
Right.
You're not involved in social mortar. But within social mortar, and talking about what's happening, and I was predicting this in 80s, that was my art, my social mortar oozing out of me, which was me part of language, my reflex response to how language had gotten. And if you study the best, like Zapp and McLuhan, you'll be on the leading edge, and then you'll be ready to help create the new last gasp of social mortar, which is Ion. It's the last communication, which includes food. Remember, food's a medium. And so we provide the new food. So it's very symmetrical and poetic if you accept my premises for this Ion thing. You know what I mean? Not many people accept it or believe it.
I mean, yeah.
Even JW. JW, he's a billionaire. And all of a sudden, Ion's coming through him. And within a week, he's sitting there, and he doesn't want to drink his coffee anymore. He doesn't want to smoke cigars, or I think it's mainly cigars. And he doesn't want to have his wine in the basement. You know, all the luxuries of being a rich guy. He just doesn't have a desire for it. And so I asked Ion, did you alter the etheric body of JW? They said, no, we altered chromosome 14. I go, chromosome 14, what's that? He says, that's part of your genetic makeup. It's the most important chromosome. And then a whole knowledge about chromosome 14 unfolded over the next few months. But I didn't notice all that. I was just processing 6 and 7 hours every other day. And Ginny, who runs our warehouse, she was pretty smart. She went back and listened to that chromosome 14 recording, which we were selling. She says, Ion talks about chromosome 14 in that tape. I go, wow, way back then? Because this is a year later, and I'm just learning, and sort of starting to register about chromosome 14 in our new product. And she said, yeah, go back and listen to it. So I went back and said, holy shit, Ion mentioned a clue. And it wasn't the etheric body, which is theosophy, and what people thought they knew. It was actually something in the body, in the genetic code, called chromosome 14. And it's really important. And I won't go into all the details that Ion said about it, but that's an example of Ion planting something very early that I would realize later. So why am I telling you this? So JW was altered because of chromosome 14, and he never, so here it is. JW went through all this crazy drama, all these years, and he said to me, Bob, what you have done to me and what has happened is ridiculous, and I don't fucking believe it, but it's working out, so I'm stuck with it. That's JW's position now. He says, I don't believe what's happening. I don't believe that I'm involved with the Queen and everybody else. I can understand it, but you started this fucking thing, and what a mess. Well, maybe not a mess you've gotten us into, Bob. So, where they're still trying to poison him. So that's part of the drama here. It's a freaking great story. And when all this is cleared up in 20 years, boy, wait till I get to tell you what really's been going on the last 15 years. It's even more amazing.
How many people show up for these the big sessions you have, the big radio sessions these days?
Ein says millions now. Over the past year, see, nobody believes anything. Everything fell apart, especially the last. You see, Hollywood fell apart with Weinstein and Me Too. Sport fell apart because of taking the kneeling. Then what was the final thing to fall apart? Medicine and science. And they fucked up with COVID, right? The establishment.
Right.
And Ian predicted this would happen. And who would be left standing? Bob and Carol and Ian with the solutions. And Ian said you're going to have to wait for everybody to come through, do their thing and fail, which is where we're at. So what was your question? I was going to answer. So what did you just say that made me say this? You can't remember. We're so involved in the moment. You can't remember what you said.
We got to back up the tape, but
yeah. Wait. So I was explaining JW. Maybe this will trigger you, and how JW doesn't believe it, or he's not sure. And we've gotten to this crazy. In 20 years, I'm going to tell you the real story. That must have made you think something.
It was.
I'm going to fill in the details. And then you start to say, well, if you're going to fill in the details, what is it? What's your question or statement?
Hey, go on. Come on. Come up.
See, we retrieve a little more. So I said that I'll tell you in 20 years all the great stuff. And it's right then that you said something.
My mind has gone a million different places, so it's hard to retrieve.
Well, that sounds like a bit like it. What would I say at that point? You say, well, what are you going to do about this? Or maybe say something like that. What do we do? Maybe most people say, what do we do, Bob? What do we do next? Right? They look for instructions.
I don't think it was that, but no, I don't know. I was asking. I was asking who met for the radio sessions. Like how many people?
Oh, the audience, the audience, right?
No, but
so
not even the audience.
Like
not even the audience.
Everything. I got the answer. I got it. So I was telling you everything fell apart, and then I gave examples of what fell apart, all the institutions, all the myths. Universities have fallen apart. So Ein says there's a lot of people watching and knowing what the fuck do you listen to now? There's no authority out there, anywhere. They can't trust anybody. So as I've been saying, it's a post-information society. So they're finding out about us. And Ein is the only thing that's got the guts to sound confident and talk about what's going on and be pretty right on the money. So
I think a lot of people went quiet too, like I did. You know, it's something.
Well, you didn't know what to say next.
Yeah, that and fatigue or
and at
something.
The end they come.
Or just
the ever they come. What more is there to say? Everybody can see the horror, and now they're waiting for it.
After I put out the book, it was like, I kind of like. I had to go back into myself and come up with something else, you know, that kind of feeling, you know.
Right, I know, you've blown your wad, come your load, and you have to have a fallow period to that's right. See what new environment you're going to make in yourself. So we're the only ones who have something to say, and everybody's coming around to us, and millions are listening, but I had always joked through the years that I had 11 listeners. That's all I had was 11 listeners. There are about 11 people who are the most regular. They've been here for years and they never leave. They always show up and they do their homework as much as they can. And Bert's the best at it. And but now there's no more 11. And so I was looking at our angel diagram, which we got from chapter 23, and there's this 11th ring, and it's got the 7 empires. So I said to Bert the other day, the 11 listeners, 7 of them are the empires. Now, the empires are the oligarchy, the real oligarchy is sitting there watching everything. And if you ascend and you start to build an empire here, you will have to confront them. They will confront you. They will test you. So I said, holy shit, Ian's talking about when he says the 11 listeners, the only ones that count are the 7 empires and 4 others who might be aliens or angels or something. So I now realize that my metaphors, the 11 listeners, were the ones that mattered. And now they're forced to come to us because we've reached that point. And this alien thing, now I don't know when the alien thing's going to happen. Maybe it'll never happen. Maybe it'll happen in a different form. But I take Ion seriously that I have to go out there every night and see if they'll show up. And I go out there and there's the cat looking at me. You know, they always sit there on the wall. So that's what I'd say. Join all the people that are coming in to listen now. You see, Ion satirized the social mortar. He's communicating and wrapping up everything, but it's all irrelevant because it's all mind stuff. And you got to figure out how the mind, which Ion says is the most powerful part of yourself, that frustrates your ascension. And that's natural because when you ascend, you then can use your mind playfully. You're not hypnotized by it, like we were saying. You're not stuck in the sensory extensions that the mind creates. So when we first, our first products were the RNA drops, they were called. When you took them, your mind stopped dominating your thinking. It would soften it, it'd buffer it. And that was the first beginning of Slack we offered. Your mind got, quote, controlled. It got suppressed positively, and you felt you could remain feeling good without getting distracted by mind issues, which always interferes with people. That was the effect of the first product. It softened the mind.
Yates has a great kind of metaphor about that. Like he talks about the mind becoming like a calm pool where all the ripples sort of like disappear from it, and then it becomes reflective like a mirror. And then once that happens, that's when all the spirits of the forest and all the animals and stuff go to look at themselves as a mirror in the reflection of the water. So your mind becomes like that. Like that's. You
said they look at themselves as a mirror. They're a mirror?
No, your mind becomes a mirror because it's calmed down now, and so now it's like now it's like a reflective pool. You know, before it was just wavy and nothing reflects up. Yeah,
you're saying you see all this phenomena in your mirror.
Yeah, they can see their own images in the mirror. Like they are attracted by your mind because it's become calm now. You know.
So do you see them see themselves?
I think so, because you're just at that point you're just observing, right? Like your mind is calmed down, right? So so that makes sense.
It allows the non-mind to happen,
right?
The other parts.
Yeah, exactly. All the even we would call them external, but they might not be. Like all these discarnate images or what, like entities or whatever they are, you know.
The irrational that your mind can't explain and thinks it has to within the prison of life and death, you think you have to explain whether
when
these
you're
are
thinking all the time and just blah, 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 and there's ripples all over the place and nothing's reflecting. That's what my mind does most of the time.
Remember, what did you say earlier? Moving on? Oh, yeah, the guy said that you keep moving on. Run on. Your mind. And the frame of that is the fear of nothingness, the fear of death. So once you get over the fear, which I felt a lot with Aya, more and more, I feel in being in eternity. I can't conceive of dying anymore. That's been the effect of rubbing up against Aya in all these years, is so, I don't know, validation of so much stuff that I don't see how I could die as long as I've got the products. So that's pretty crazy. You talk to people, and I'm pretty old, and they say, Bob, you're doing great, but I'm going to be dead soon. Well, fucking stop it. Get on our products. You won't die. Come on. I'm going to fucking die, Bob. No, you're not. That's the last crazy thing one can say to someone. Hey, no, stay alive. You're not going to die. I can see you start saying that to your friends. I ain't dying. Znore is not dying.
Well, you've got the ocean there for you too. Me too. Like I can go swimming the ocean all the time, which is like a huge thing.
I got the perfect environment. I got utopia. The perfect exercise is swimming, and and the water can be big or small. It changes all the time. Sometimes there's big, huge waves. That's a lot of fun if you know how to swim through them.
Yeah, I do that here.
What'd you say?
I do that here. Yeah, the same thing. The only difference is it gets
Japan. What part of Japan are you in?
I'm right on the ocean, like right down from sort of right down the coast from Kamakura. Do you know Kamakura, the old capital?
No. Are you near Tokyo?
It takes me about like an hour and a half by train to get to Tokyo.
Okay, so you quite
maybe an hour to get to hour probably to get to Tokyo.
And you have a nice beach there?
Yeah, it's pretty nice. Yeah, like it's not the Hawaii standard beach, but it's nice for Japan. You know, like it.
And you go in the water.
Oh yeah. It's nice enough. Like it's the Emperor's summer residence, right? So they keep that beach really nice.
Right. Is there still an emperor?
Oh yeah. There's just been a new one recently.
Oh, okay. He keeps a low profile, at least in my mind. I don't see anything about him ever.
Yeah. Especially the new one, I haven't heard much at all about him. Like the old one is still there. He's retired. I think he actually spends a lot of time in this town, secretly. But these guys, the Japanese emperors, are in the Order of the Garter, with Queen Elizabeth being the top.
Yeah.
You know, of all these different monarchies, like that's a really exclusive secret society only for monarchs. You know, like. That's
right. No, I talked about the Order of the Garter, and I think he said Ophenel's been a member of the Order of the Garter for a long time. But so JW, before Iron happened, he wanted Balmoral, which I thought was a crazy fantasy. Well, now it's even closer to it, and he's really helping the Queen. And there's some consideration going on, depending on the Queen's last statement is the monarchy will die if Bob doesn't pull this off. That's what she said. It's not going to make it. And so she's counting on it. And if it does die, then she'll give Balmoral to JW. So when I heard about this, I said, JW, I want a knighthood. You know, wow, I'm in the middle of this. I'm helping. So I want a knighthood. And so she says, Bob wants a knighthood? Why? And JW quotes me, well, he wants to get some respect. She started laughing. He said she laughed for 5 minutes. And then later, her very last words lately were, tell Bob, she said through some of these wealthy elites, her people said that were meeting with JW, said, tell Bob that I hope to be as narcissistic as he is someday. Which I thought was pretty fucking neat. Because she's kind of a narcissist. You have to be in her position.
Oh, for
sure. You know, everybody has to bow to her, all kinds of rules, right? Isn't that kind of a narcissism? For pre-literate people, it is.
You
couldn't get away with that in a fucking tribal society.
The only way she could escape that is if she really identified with the nation, with the kingdom. You know, like that. She's not an individual. She's the whole kingdom.
That's the way she lives. She doesn't. There's a great impersonality. JW says interacting with her, but she's not there.
You said she died, or like she was killed, or was she?
No. She got very in trouble, and she got a very bad health situation, and our products kept her going.
All right, yeah,
and revitalized her because she was on our products, but she wasn't doing them right. So Carolyn had to write it out. Look, this is what you do. Because she hardly could make it through the Jubilee. But she got some stuff just before the Jubilee that strengthened her enough so that she could stand up for a while. She can't stand up for a long time right now. So she couldn't go to everything, but she went to a few things and stood there and looked like she was okay. She looked okay in the face because our products made her face look good, but her hips were hurting.
Mm-hmm.
So JW is, he helped make that happen. We saved Trump in October 2020. You remember when he got COVID one weekend?
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
You're saying he was taking monoclonal antibodies, right?
Well, that's his cover story. He's taking ours. So he's been on our stuff since 2015. His whole family is. So on October 10th or something, that weekend, whatever the date was, this is 3 weeks before the election, Carolyn gets an email from Melania saying, I know you've heard that Trump's got in the hospital, but he's not doing well. And I've run out of products. Can you get some to him? So Carolyn contacted JW, who was flown up to Walter Reed's hospital. Yeah, Walter Reed Hospital. Went in there on a Friday night, and he gave the doctors our stuff. And then he sat there all night, and the doctors would come out, every hour or so saying, yeah, he's still alive. He was going down pretty bad. And then as the evening went on, he got better and better, and the doctors didn't know why. They just knew to do our stuff, and they knew Trump wanted it. So by the morning, he had come out of it. And then he recuperated over the next 2 days. And like on Monday, he went out in front of the White House, and people said he was looking unstable, but he was standing there and saying he was cured. So
apparently he had this plan to have a Superman T-shirt underneath his shirt, and he was going to rip out his shirt and just show the Superman.
Well, he might have been humbled by what happened, and he wasn't going to make fun of it. So on Saturday, Sunday, he had improved and wasn't going to die. And the doctors had a press conference, and they said they named Remdesivir, that funny word, and something, and something else, and maybe they said some vitamins, or they just said Remdesivir. Then Sunday they had another press conference, and they then added vitamin C and zinc or something. Now that's our stuff. And then Monday came out, Trump just said, I had miracle products, and it was a blessing from God. He put it on the God level. And he was talking about our stuff. But he's told not to talk about our stuff, because if the world heard about this, 1 billion people would want it right away and demand it. Our factory isn't big enough to do that. So we can't do it. So we don't want it out there. You find out in your own lucky streak if you find out about us, then you get better. So that's the way it is. Eventually people will know, and then maybe we'll be able to handle it. But we can't handle. You understand, right? If Trump got better and he named it, everybody would want it immediately, right?
Yeah. He's pretty vague about what got him better.
Yeah, and he's kept vague about it because we told him to. It would disrupt our whole thing, because there's a lot of people that are alive and depend on our products, and we can't have that upset. So the FDA, they better watch it if they try to stop the products. That's fucked. Then they're getting in trouble. Some things, the sea dragon ain't going to put up with that,
Hey, Bob, I gotta get out of here soon. I hear my.
Well, we've come to a good conclusion.
My family making
excellent.
noise. If you wanna say any final comments about the article, I'd love to hear it.
Oh yes, I wanted to go through that. Let's see. Go to page 306 or so. Yeah. You have Mearsha McMahon, Moonchild, me. So Mearsha McMahon is the term Joyce uses on page 254 of Finnegan's Wake to describe McLuhan. And the description of the words around him, that name, are so accurate.
Right.
Have you looked at them?
Yeah. I think
when I did the archives, a lot of the boxes, there were 60 boxes of newspaper clippings in file folders. So that's Cleo's clippings. And then it says, I don't have the quote right here, it says, these things are what would occur to anyone. There's something obvious about McLuhan's media talk. To say the book's an extension of the eye, that's kind of silly and obvious. And people say, oh, yeah, it's an extension of the eye. What's profound about that, right? So if you've got Finnegan's Wake right there, you could bring it out and say the quotes, see the words I'm talking about.
That's on
page 254.
254, yeah.
Now you see, Mearsha McMahon, read what it says after that. As might occur to anyone.
Yeah, I like it. I like what it says right before that too. It says Orion of the Orgiasts. Orion
That's the
of the
60s.
Orgiasts. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the 60s, where a
And
lot
then
of
the
chemical body humanist orgies happened, right?
right, and then the
Culminations.
ipse dadin, product of the
That's his
extremes.
dadaistic self. That's the
Right.
data part of himself.
Product of the extremes, giving quotidians to our means as
And means
means.
are the media. Means
Yeah.
are media.
Right.
And he made them extreme. He hyper exaggerated their effect.
Right. Right.
And quotidians means cliches. He wrote cliched archetype. So
Right.
those words exactly fit him.
As might occur to anyone, your Brutus layman with the princess champion in our archdeaconcy, or so.
Now wait a minute. The layman is that he and Don Theo were the only laymen at St. Michael's. Everybody was a Brazilian priest there. So they were laymen, and then he got brought into the elite. He spoke at Buckingham Palace, the princess champion of the archdeaconry. The elite used him to create the idea of a global village to prepare for the world globalist vision. You know what I mean? He was exploited. So the archdeaconry did that to him.
Wow. And then this part I got the next or so he clept from Cleo's clippings.
Yeah, now Cleo is the word you give in advertising. Now, it wasn't around back then, but Cleo can refer to Cleopatra, but it's Cleo's clippings in Explorations, if you've ever seen it. He has a picture of the New York Times with a female goddess superimposed it. So the female seduction and goddess of media and electric telegraph media is like Cleo's clippings, Cleopatra's clippings.
She's also the muse of history. Right, so
Yeah.
Cleo's clippings is history, right? Like,
newspaper is the daily history.
Right. Yeah, and then the next part is banging. Well, no, not yet. Which the chronicler of chivalries is suspicious, save he scan.
Right. So the chronicle of chivalries is what he was an expert on was the medieval period. That's what his PhD was about.
Right, and then this one. This one should be obvious to everybody. For ancients link with presence as the human chain extends.
But let's go back to chivalry's Cleo clippings. What's the words right after that?
That's what I'm saying.
No, there's some other words there.
Oh, Chronicle of Chivalries is suspicious, save he scan.
The scanning is his famous statement about the scanning finger of the TV set.
Right.
Okay, and he said to write Understanding Media, he would look anywhere to find anything, including newspaper clippings, which were in the 60 boxes. He would just grab newspapers and then make a book out of these clippings. But he would scan, and that's also what television did, and he did a mosaic scanning method of writing. That's literally how he did his books.
Right.
Isn't that incredible?
Yeah, it is amazing.
And then quote ancients. That's his PhD.
Yeah. This is a great one. For ancients link with presence as the human chain extends.
Right. So he discussed the ancient. He said, "What is it?"
Ancients link with presence.
No. And then what'd you say?
As the human
chain extends.
Yeah, as the human chain extends.
Okay. So you've got. He writes in his PhD about the ancient quarrel between the ancients and the moderns, but it was called modernity. That's what his knowledge, his breakthrough knowledge is in the early 40s. And then he says that we're retrieving ancient sensibility, the patriarchal fathers, way back there, tribal stuff. It's all retrieved. And so the ancients become the presence. It's McKenna's archaic revival. The ancients become the presence due to the extensions of ourselves.
Right, the human chain extends. Yeah, and that goes right back to Ulysses, right, where he's talking about the cord from the umbilical cord coming out and being able to contact, like right back to Eve, like he says.
And then that's even Ion, going back to original source. So the extensions are presented as an evolution of technology that supersedes the evolution of nature of Darwin. You have the evolution of technology, which Joyce and them intuited. So that totally fits. And then what's said after extends?
Have done, do, and will do again, as John Polycarp and I renews, eye to eye, eyewitnessed, and to Paddy Palmer.
There's the eye and observing.
Eye to eye, eyewitness. Yeah.
That's what he was doing. I observe the effects so I can retrieve the eye with an iBook that replays the Finnegan's Wake iBook. So that's obvious. That stuff there, right? That's him. That's describing him.
And then this one, I don't know, Paddy Palmer. Like, I guess this would be St. Patrick's. Monks sell you to archers on the water of the Livying, goes the way of all fish.
The monks sell you to the archers? The monks are of digital technology. That's everybody in their little cloister blogging, and then you have surveillance capitalism, which hijacks the monks that are blogging stupid information as if it's significant, and whatever other word in there.
Sell you. So the U is the tree U, YEW, right? So that's the sacred tree as well, right? Like that.
Right, and the archers are picking you off. That's the what McClune called the triggermen, the hit squads. The monks get archered.
He might. I'm just thinking of this. This might be talking about the zodiac as well. Like it's
Zodiac
talking about. Killer? No. I mean the signs, like the archer, and then it goes to the water. The way of all fish goes to Pisces.
The Polycarp sounds like a fish. Now that's a fish with multiple parts. That's the fish that doesn't know it's in water. McClune always uses that.
It's the way of all flesh, also with the novel by Samuel Butler. Samuel Butler's weird source too. Like he's the one who talks about
Erewhon.
Erewhon is one of his ones, and then the way of all flesh, and then he's got a bunch of nonfiction stuff where he talks about the memory of a cell, or the memory of the egg that is primordial. It basically goes back to the beginning of life, right? Like the actual cell never dies, and so the memory never dies, and so all of us have this memory in us.
And he's writing that in the 19th century.
Around that.
Samuel Butler. So then, what's next? I know it starts to dissipate the last few lines of the paragraph. I don't know what to fit in there.
Way of all fish from Sarah's drawhead, the quarrelsome to Isaac's, the loft but one. Okay, so he's talking about Sarah and Abraham, and then Isaac. The loft but one, the last but one. So he's talking about Jacob and Esau, the but one.
And Sarah's can be sores, the sores we get from the media.
Yeah.
The plagues, the diseases.
And then with her mini lisp exterior, he says.
That's the extension of the right hemisphere. That's women.
Yeah. This is what I've got highlighted too. This one, monoloth. This is the monolith, right?
You know about the monoliths? The recent ones?
Oh, yeah. Those are weird too, eh?
Yeah, I'd explain. When I go to the bunker, the EMP will happen, no communications, but I'll be able to broadcast through those monoliths, which were put there probably by aliens, the new aliens, to be my network of broadcasting when there's no electronics available anymore. That's what the monoliths mean, according to Ion.
Well,
how's that one?
That's good.
Yeah, that's good. Good. What's next?
So then it gets to Perichon with Bastion, or heavy humph with airy nan, and this massive word Ricker, Acker, Brim, Billy, Jackie, Jock, Jolly Cass.
That's Ion. McClune transformed into Ion, or Finnegan's Ease into Ion. That's all babble from Ion.
Well, that's so I think that's Rousseau, but that's also what is I'm spacing on it. The magazine that Jolas, who was talking about the
transition,
the revolution of the word. Yeah.
Transition.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, transition. How so is thou, dulcisamica, and that's.
I talked to the dulcimer recently. How important the dulcimer is.
That's also from. Sorry, I'm spacing out. That's Don Quixote. Like that's Dulcima, like the muse of Don Quixote.
And
then finally it's and ab ad abu abiad, and that's according to some that's from Egyptian religion. This in one interpretation that I've read. And then
it could be the alphabet.
The alphabet for sure. And then a Babel man dub gulch of tears. So
that's the Babel.
Tower of Babel, right?
Yeah, that McLuhan was dealing with.
Yeah.
He saw the Babel early. Yeah, that fits. Well, very good. I had never gone through the last lines like that, so we learned something there. So I want to go through. It's very important when you come to that point. You say, in short, the extensions of humanity had evolved to the point of actualizing their own realm of cognition.
Yeah,
that was great. How you led up to that, and then you say, at this point, I will not get into Dobbs' incredibly intriguing thoughts on this third phase. And presumably the fourth phase we're all living through right now. That's what we've been discussing, the fourth phase, Andromeme Plus, which Dobbs, you call the third phase the Andromeme, which is correct, and then the fourth phase is the tech body. But my attention here also revolves around McLuhan's key theoretical obsession with the drama of cognition and perception. Now, have you ever looked at Renaissance, the Catholic journal in the 50s? You ever looked at that?
No.
Okay. There's a lot of talk in there, similar to page 32. I have the interior landscape here. Page 32. If you look it up, there's stuff about they are the representatives of the age-old adequation of mind and things, enacting the drama of the endless adjustment of the interior acts and dispositions of the mind to the outer world. The drama of cognition itself. For it is in the drama of cognition, the stages of apprehension, that Joyce found the archetype of poetic imitations. He seems to have been the first to see that the dance of being, the nature imitated by the arts, has its primary analog in the activity of the exterior and interior senses. Joyce was aware that this doctrine, and then in brackets, that sensation is imitation because the exterior forms are already in a new matter, this doctrine is implicit in Aquinas. He made it explicit in Stephen Hero and the Portrait, and founded his entire poetic activity on these analogical proportions of the senses. So that, I don't know if you know that, that's page 32, 33, and 34 are really important. He says, if Daedalus on 34, if Daedalus was the first to move
that's from where?
Interior Landscape, the essay James Joyce, Trivial and Quadrivial. The collection of his criticism.
Yeah, that's almost sounds like what I was writing.
Yeah. See, yeah, you haven't read the Joyce articles?
On what?
In 53, he wrote 2 articles, Joyce, Mallarmé, and the Press, and then James Joyce, Trivial and Quadrivial.
Oh, by McLuhan.
Yeah. You don't have Interior Landscape.
No, I'm quoting those afterwards. That's why. Okay, that makes sense then. So you're quoting McLuhan.
I'm quoting McLuhan writing about Joyce, and you're saying
So
that you wrote similar stuff.
No, I've quoted those passages.
Okay, yes, you know about them.
Yeah.
Do you have the Interior Landscape?
No, I don't. Yeah,
you gotta, because he spells out this whole thing, McLuhan's key theoretical obsession with the drama of cognition and perception. Renaissance and these articles provide the detail that you're working out. And then you have the Android meme replays that. Then you have the tech body takes it further extreme, like page 254, and extremes the means, makes the means extreme. He extremes the Android meme, and you'd get what you're talking about is okay for phase one, but you want to read and complete the drama of cognition in Joyce's literary criticism, and then go back and read my essay and where I'm going to, which you're interested in.
Yeah, did you get to the last essay that I wrote on the one that's called Mosaic? That's where I sort of spin off, like so.
You mean in the book here?
Yeah, in the book, the last.
I read all three. I've only read 25, 26, and 27, those chapters. I haven't read any other part of your book.
Oh, okay, yeah. So the last one is where it spins off,
Let me see where it says Mosaic. Oh, yeah. You got television kills telephony. We'll have to go over this another time, I think, in detail, because it's too much to do right now. You got to go, and we did the Finnegan's Wake line, which is really good. The Mearson McMillan. That's what your essays are coming from.
Right.
But then the particulars, I did want to go through it and point out stuff like you got Pow, you got Fry. You got all kinds of important stuff in here, but I think it is preliminary to my 5 bodies. The Android meme is made up of the 5 bodies, and that's what we're trying to get you to get to next. Yeah, here it is, the last paragraph. The senses recombine, perception is cleansed, dullness retreats, the Freemasonry of the arts, for good or for ill, becomes obsolete. And the multitudinous child of the moon and sun is born as the awakened Albion, or not. Abandon the tomb of dead white men. That, you got to see how maybe it goes into the 5 bodies. This is a plateau statement. The afterglow.
Well, the 5 bodies are there though, like they're not in your terms, but they're there with the 5 senses, including
but that's
tactility in the center, right?
Right, but the bodies obsolesce remove the 5 senses. You have to see how technology in the digital phase is not the senses. It's actually an extension of tactility, but what is extended from tactility is these machinic environments, which Croker and I call bodies. And that's the TV body and chip body. That is more accurate to what's going on. People aren't juggling their senses anymore. That's chemical body limitation. They're juggling the environments, which are these bodies. The astral body, the after image of the chemical body, and the TV body and chip body, and an ion is the mystery body, or the mystery landscape. So the landscapes of the first half of the 20th century, radio and TV are big environments. They get shrunk, miniaturized by the digital, and they become tiny, and they become organs or bodies. That's what we're juggling today. And that explains more about what people are experiencing in their quadrophenic confusion of not their senses, of their bodies. And so you've got this Clinton and people like that. They say they grew up on the chip body. They had no sense of their chemical body. He couldn't even get an erection. And all this stuff with his sex life was all killed by the chip body. Now that's beyond sensory dynamics when you're killing your penis. You know what I mean? That's because your chemical body is miniaturized and sidelined by excessive chip body use. So that's the interplay that explains a lot of the dilemma that's going on with the millennials and younger. They're juggling and they're now into the hexatic body, which is the effective ion. So you got the millennials and the younger sitting there, not listening to any authorities, because none of them work anymore, and they're saying, what's here now? Well, we're here. I am them. And we can communicate and say, okay, you got a big problem as an unhealthy 20-year-old? Go on our products. Don't go on the regular medicine, which they're all on, and it's killing them. It's real stupid what they're on. And Big Pharma knows this. We recommend our stuff. And then if they found out about cold fusion, Coldplay, and the breakthroughs, they'd get a little less depressed. Yeah, but they got to go through this Armageddon. Now, here's what's the final statement I'll make. Ein says that the womb is closed, sperm doesn't work anymore, and all babies born today, when did you have your baby?
Last one was 16, right at the beginning. Yeah.
Oh, okay, that might have made it. As of late, all babies are half angels.
Mm.
They're not human, and most of them are going to die in the starvation and bad times that are coming. They're not meant to survive. So there's the drastic apocalyptic statement from us here in Iondom, broadcasting on Saturday night on the Znore channel.
What's your take on Bowie?
David Bowie?
Yeah.
I prefer Zappa. Bowie's okay, but he's too much a product of the Endor meme. He didn't know how to get out of it. And so he just tossed from one medium to another, and he ends up hanging out with the old art world. He does not get McLuhan and the media environments as art. He goes back to magazines and the New York scene. So that'll kill him. So he died. He didn't find Bob. He didn't get revitalized.
Hmm. Yeah, he's another one that sort of appeared in a dream, like a really significant dream that I had. And then
he communicates well to the Generation X. He's more important than Zappa for them, but they don't know Zappa. They don't know the intricacies of Zappa.
Well, this is what I'm talking to Wally about, right? Like
Wally Sherrod?
Yeah. Wally's deep into
what are you talking
Zappa. To Zappa.
Oh, well, we should have a dialogue. Yeah, you and I and him, because that's my expertise.
Yeah, that would be great. That would be great.
Yeah, why don't we do your essay here overlap with Bowie, Zappa, and Walter?
That'd be cool.
See?
Yeah. I could. I could contact him, and I'm sure he'd love that. Like he'd love to talk about that. You guys could just geek out on Zappa, and I'd just sit and listen.
Now you could add whatever comes to your mind, because it'll happen synchronistically. You'll think of things like you did tonight.
Right.
You could have just geeked out and let me talk about ion, but all this ion resonance came out of you, so that'll happen. and I already did an interview with him. I don't know where it is. It's probably on my archive, but he interviewed me once, back then when we first started talking the Synch book. So, yeah, we could do part 2. Now, has he read this last part of your book?
He's read it, I think. Yeah, he's got it anyways. I sent him a
Ask him to review it or look at it, and we will do this book and relate it to Zappa. There's a lot of McLuhan in Zappa. Nobody knows this.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so there it is. We've got our assignment for how we'll do the rest of your essays here. We'll do it with Walter.
He would love that, I think. So I think, yeah. We just gotta. The problem will be getting the time zones right, because he's in London, you're in Hawaii, I'm in Japan, so it's gonna.
Well, if he's I think it would be he's 12 hours ahead of me, so he'd be Sunday also.
Yeah, if he can.
He'd be later in Sunday, I think.
If he could sync it up with his family, like he has his problem getting time, but I've talked to him at this time too, right? So it's possible.
You have talked to him at this time.
Yeah, I forget. Like he normally wants to talk to me when it's my evening and it gets late for me, but we could probably reverse it. Like it would be late for him, I think.
Okay, let's after his family's gone to bed or something, take a couple hours. He can do.
Anyways,
that.
he'll work it out. Like he'll be excited to do it. So I'm sure he be able to work at a time sometime.
And we'll send this recording to him, and he can review it, hear it.
All the how many hours is it?
How long was it? I called you at 4. Probably got started at 4:30, so it's 5 hours at least.
Yeah, I think it's already made it. I think Skype now makes automatic, like it cuts it into different recordings. So now we're at almost 6 hours. Yeah,
so it'll be 2, 3, a 4 and a 3, a 4 and a 2 maybe.
All right, I hope I get
4
this.
4 hour and a 2 hour.
All right, Bob. So I got to get out of here then.
Yeah, but it'll be divided: 4 hours and then 2 hours.
Yeah.
The
so
recording.
I guess they'll just give it to me in the chat afterwards? Do you know how this works?
No, I've never recorded on Skype, so
let it
unfold. Ask
here
somebody.
Here it is. Here it is. Yeah,
so, you turned it off? It's right there.
I've got the first recording, right? If you look at the, you can get it right now too. Actually, you could download it right now. You know, if you go to the chat.
Let's see, where's the chat? Skype.
Yeah.
So I bring up Skype. Where's chat?
It's got that little the little speaking icon or something like that. What is it? Yeah, it's just.
I see. Yeah, I click on chat.
And there it is. There's the first.
Available for 30 days. So what do I hit to download it?
I'm not sure. Just try right click or something. See if that works. Yeah, right here. Save to downloads or save to something. Save as something. So just we might as well both do that.
Yeah,
so I'm going to save it now.
But see, I have Mac, so it's not saying I can't right click. So what? Click on that. No. I don't want to. Recording is available for 30 days. I'll have to ask somebody. What? I don't want to click the wrong thing.
You can't just you just try clicking it just without the back click, and you might be able to get in.
It says open video. Don't want to do that. So it has a little arrow in the center, and then a little blue thing with a human head, and then your ladder on the left. What would I click to download?
Just click. Not sure, but with a Mac, but just try clicking the whole thing and see what comes up. It's not going to be. You're not going to lose it. Like I've saved it now anyway, so.
Yeah, you saved it. It's convenient, and so. Don't worry about it. I'll ask somebody.
Yeah, I'll save both parts anyways. Now it's downloading this part now, so.
Yeah, it's convenient if I can download it because I can send it to my web guy and he can put it up right away.
Yeah, cool. So you'll have it for 30 days, like they said. So you'll be able to do it.
So you don't mind it being public?
No, I don't think we talked about anything too personal or anything.
Yeah. No, it's good. It actually explains a lot of what you've been doing and the sync up with me. That's surprising. So it's worth putting it on your resume.
I don't know if anyone's going to go through the whole 6 hours to.
Well, the ones that are supposed to, that will get something from it, will. They won't be able to avoid it. Some 19-year-olds will get zapped. They'll be there in McLuhan. Yeah. They'll say, wow, all the stuff we said.
They're Finnegan's Wake, this recording.
Yeah, Finnegan's Awake. Okay, man. Great talking to you, Znore, and it was very surprisingly amazing. So we got a lot done.
Yeah, that was great, Bob. Nice to talk to you. Good to hear from you for years now, and just picked it up where we left off.
Right, like you said we would. So I'll wait to hear about Walter from you.
Cool. Okay, I'll let him know as soon as I can.
Okay. Talk to you later.
Yeah, see you, man. All the best.
Yeah, bye.